Halo Infinite is an interesting package to say the least. From a single player experience challenging many of the traditions of Halo's past, but doing so surprisingly well, to a multiplayer that is, well, probably one of the worst examples of corporate greed and mismanagement ever to be found in a video game. That means there are a lot of things fans may be asking for, and I am not addressing those here, as many of those things are topics for entirely different days. Instead, I'd like to talk about more fun things that can be added onto Infinite's foundation, from some missing franchise staples to some old favorites of mine I'd wish would return. Here are the top 5 things I wish would be added to Halo Infinite. The first thing I think Infinite absolutely needs is Spartan Ops. Not exactly the weekly TV show kind of format of it, though that was an interesting concept, but the core idea of it, the idea of our Spartan, the one we customize and play with in multiplayer, being center stage in their own story, similar to how they were in Reach. This is already being set up with the opening sequence in the Academy being so tailored to your Spartan, with Spartan Arena talking to you directly about the fight you're about to join. And though I haven't finished the campaign at the time of writing this video, extremely minor spoiler ahead for the first level of the campaign, skip to this time on screen to avoid it. I assume she's flying off to join Chief on Zeta Halo, now that the UNSC probably know he's back and taking the fight to the Banished. So an easy way to implement a version of Spartan Ops without making new assets would be to place it on Zeta Halo. Maybe after the events of the campaign, which I'm sure sets up things for the franchise's future. Jumping in as we and many other Spartans will begin being deployed across Zeta Halo. Maybe this is even how co-op campaign is implemented essentially? Makes more sense than 4 chiefs floating around the ring anyway. Either way, I just want something where I can play as my Spartan in the bigger story of Halo, even if it doesn't take place on the ring, or at the very least the parts influenced by what Chief is doing. It could be in segmented missions like back in the day, free roam, or a mix of both, as long as I get to play as my Spartan alongside my friends in a grand Halo story. The next thing I'd love to see is another large-scale game mode. Now, I could just ask for Warzone back. In fact, I might just add that to the list. But for now, I'm thinking more in the line with sieging a structure or having to defend it. I was inspired after playing the campaign and grappling over these huge walls, lowering the gates for my marines, and charging and laying waste to the banished forces inside. Being able to fight players in the huge fortresses on Zeta Halo, with tight corridors but also huge courtyards and more, I think could be so much fun. Or possibly defending these structures in a horde-style co-op mode, or even just attacking them in co-op would be fun too. In a similar vein, I need Invasion back in Halo. Invasion was my favorite game mode in Halo Reach, and though I understand why this choice was made, the fact that it's only available in competitive in the MCC crushes me. I'd love to see an iteration of this game mode again. It could be brought back in during a season all about elites, maybe when we finally get to play as them as well. I mean, the Arbiter's got most of the elites on his side now. I don't see why we can't work together more. And I'm not exactly sure if the multiplayer matches are still simulations, but assuming they are, these could just be practice skirmishes and training drills to make us even more effective at fighting together. As for the game mode itself, it would be different from the one I mentioned previously, because Invasion works in phases. Especially with some tweaks this time around, each phase could have very different objectives, from protecting a payload to planting a bomb. Maybe even adding in some Warzone style AI to the mix, having to assassinate a high value boss that the other team defends. Possibly even attacking a scarab or well upgraded elephant as the final objective. I'm just saying, Invasion made it feel like you were part of a real battle, with different types of objectives all in the same match, the teams separated by elites versus Spartans, and you slowly pushing back an enemy force as you move deeper into the map. It felt cinematic and was so fun to play. This is a game mode I'd love to make a return in Halo Infinite. Another game mode I'd love to see is Firefight, but not just any version of Firefight. I'd love to play a firefight game mode more like it was in ODST. Maybe it was just the vibe that ODST gave off, but firefight felt so much more like it was a fight for your survival. Like every time you played, you were playing the last mission from Reach, just fighting for your life until there was nothing left to give. Ammo was limited, as there were a limited amount of weapon pickups on the map, along with few pieces of equipment or power weapons for you to use. I want this feeling again, a version of firefight against an unrelenting force. Maybe the Flood perhaps? Where you start with UNSC weapons, limited ammo, and no equipment. The enemies drop some weapons, but it's like famines enabled. These weapons are always almost out of ammo. And only if you survive or maybe travel far enough do you find more equipment pickups and power weapons. Maybe if you make it to higher rounds you can get some upgrades. Say you start at a broken down fob, you can get turrets, limited ammo caches, and even some vehicles. This would emphasize that slow power creep, similar to what you get playing Call of Duty Zombies. Slowly working your way up from just a sidekick and your buddies by your side to powerful weapons, gear, and maybe even some upgrades, some being similar to the ones you get in the campaign perhaps. Yeah, it sounds like I'm asking for Halo Zombies, but I really do want that feeling of back against the wall survival you got from ODST Firefight, rather than just the wave-based survival mode you get in Reach and onwards. But those are fun too, don't get me wrong. And either way, we all know we should have had some form of firefight at launch. Hey, I mentioned it before, right? But the last thing I'd really love to see in Halo Infinite is none other than Halo 5's Warzone. I know Warzone and just Halo 5 altogether weren't that popular, but I think Warzone's biggest problems were being tied to loot boxes and then getting all of the developer support over the traditional Halo modes, which just spited fans at that point. If everything else got the attention it deserved, and it wasn't a mode based around microtransactions, I think more of the community would have received Warzone positively. And there's good reason too. A large-scale game mode around capturing bases where you can call in weapons and vehicles while also fighting against AI sounds like a blast. And I think with some tweaks, it could be even better. Like making the base structures not be the exact same on every map, but if they were more like the middle bases on each map, being in different structures, from larger, more open buildings to temples in the sides of mountains. Having the bases be more varied would really make it feel like you're capturing a unique location that matters, and could vary up combat too, as some may be more open spaces, while others may be more close combat focused. I also think the weapon variants and rec points could still work here. For one, just adding them in as they were before with the different costs and tiers based on how powerful the weapons were could basically work the same. And if we still want some progression tied to them, you could earn some of these variants through challenges, leveling, campaign, etc. Nothing too powerful or anything like that, but it would be like how you could earn newly added weapons or attachments in Call of Duty's seasons. And we could add all of these weapons in without changing up the meta in traditional multiplayer. Warzone was so much fun back in Halo 5, and with a lot of its kinks ironed out, I think the community would eat it up. How's that for a Battle Royale competitor? Comment what other game modes or additions you'd like to see in Halo Infinite. Are there any essential ones that I missed? And make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. It really helps out the channel. Until next time, I'm Parker Fox, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.